You're watching or listening to The Looking Forward Show on PhillyCam, WPPM LP, Philadelphia, 106.5 FM, or PhillyCam TV. You can also see us live streaming on Xfinity 66 and 966, on Bios TV 2930, on Roku, Apple TV, and Facebook, as well as our YouTube channel. And now, here's your host, Jeffrey Abramowitz. Listening to PhillyCam, WPPM LP 106.5 FM. I'm Jeff Abramowitz, your host of The Looking Forward Show, and we are live streaming on Xfinity 66 and 966, Bios TV 29 and 30, Roku, Apple TV, and your favorite YouTube channel. It's great to be here. We took a week off, and actually, this is actually going to be our last show for the summer. We're taking a summer break. We'll be back in September, but I got to tell you, if we're going to end and go out big, we're going out big today because we have some amazing guests. Our wonderful Secretary of Board of Pardons, Celeste Trusty, is going to be here. Joshua Garner and David Garlock, both good friends doing amazing work, and they're both going to be on. We're going to be chatting about Father's Day and reentry and justice and all the good things. I just want to catch up with a little bit. So a few things. One is happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Happy belated Mother's Day, because we did have Mother's Day a few in, I guess it's been a little over a month ago, but I wanted to give a shout out to all the dads, both behind the walls and those men and women that are home. And also last Friday, some bunch of things have been happening. One was Temple University had their job fair. So what was great about it was that, number one, it was just huge. There was a lot of providers there, a lot of people there, but I was glad to see some reentry groups there, some groups that were there that were just kind of jumping in saying, look, if you're justice friendly, we want to talk to you and we want to support you. And it wasn't just about jobs. It was also about just, really understanding how we can help people navigate the challenges of coming home and getting an employment and a career. Really, it's what it's about, finding that career opportunity. So that was awesome. The week before that, we had a block party celebrating Reentry Month in Philadelphia. That was sponsored by JEVS Looking Forward program, and also by the Philadelphia Reentry Coalition sponsored it. And at that event, they did something which our listeners should know about. So this is what happened. The men at SCI Chester did a mural from this program called the Real Rap program, which is an art program. And they had this mural painted, but they left out the color. And we brought it to the block party, and we had all the neighbors and kids paint the mural in. And they did such an amazing job. And they put notes in, hi, Dad, can't wait for you to come home. All these crazy things were on there. And it was really amazing. And I was able last week to deliver it up to the men at SCI Chester just to do a little cleanup so that we could make sure it gets posted and back in the community. So just a lot of going on in Reentry Month and here in Philadelphia, a lot of big events coming up, and really excited in particular about this show and Father's Day. So many of you the listeners that know us, we're going on to we're almost at our fifth year of the show. And for those that know my story, know that I did some time away. And Father's Day is always a special day for me. Number one is because I get to think about my dad, who I got to spend time with when I came home. But I also think about the challenges that my family went through while I was away. And boy, we're going to be talking to some dads and some moms today who are going to be sharing all of their experiences of, connecting with family and teaching us how to do it. So I'm really excited about that. I'm proud to be here. This is the Looking Forward Show. We're going to take a really super short break, and we're going to be right back. Looking Forward, Philadelphia. You're listening to Looking Forward. We're on PhillyCam Radio, WPPM LP, Philadelphia 106.5. And on PhillyCam, we're live streaming Xfinity 66, 96, Bios TV 2930, Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube. And they're my rock stars right there. There they are. So we are so blessed today to have just an incredible guest panel, and I brought them all on. You guys know that listen to the show. No, you usually pump one at a time, and I couldn't do any justice. Couldn't even decide who to start with. Although I do think that the secretary of the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons outranks everybody else on this show today, but that's okay because you guys do your thing as well, pretty good. So let me introduce my panel first, and then we're gonna get right into it. Celeste Trusty, she is secretary of the Pennsylvania Board of Pardons. She's responsible for coordinating the daily operations of the Board of Pardons office, and is dedicated as well to providing support and information and advice to the chair board and to everybody about pardons, and has been in this job and doing just an incredible job. She's an advocate for transforming Pennsylvania's legal system. She's been a state director for Pennsylvania regional organizer for FAM, and prior to FAM, she runs networks for incarcerated Pennsylvanians and just been doing this work in the justice space for so long. She's also a volunteer for the Pennsylvania Innocence Project and can be seen in episode 7 of the Innocence Files on Netflix. Really cool. I love that. She's also a mom with 2 incredible daughters and loves music. And she loves social media because everywhere you go, you cannot go a few hours without seeing a great post from the Secretary of Pardons, Celeste Trusty. How are you, Celeste?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me, Jeff, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. I certainly don't outrank anybody on here, especially with our other 2 guests who have much better stories and are doing much better work.
So let's get to it. Sit tight. We're going to bring you in a second. We'll start the conversation going, but I need to introduce everybody. So David Garlock, he's actually been a friend. He's a returning citizen and criminal justice reform leader in not only the state of Pennsylvania, throughout the country. He got his bachelor's degree from Eastern University. He's going to tell you his own story, and also was the Lancaster program director for New Prison Ministries, reentry program for men convicted of sex offenses, and with other returning citizens. That was from 2017 to 2020. I can't believe it. And I'm proud to say that we were brothers together in Just Leadership USA, and we both are alumni of the Leading with Conviction program, fellowship program. He's currently the Central PA field organizer for Straight Ahead organization and co-chair of the board of Lancaster County Reentry Coalition. He is frequently speaks around the world, but I think his claim to fame and what I love the most about him, and I tell all my friends about that if you ever see the film Just Mercy, that yes, you can. That's where you might get. He gets his fame from. He was in the movie Just Mercy and his work with Brian Stevenson. So really, glad to have you on, David. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for allowing me to be on with such amazing panelists.
Well, we're grateful to have you, and we'll talk about fatherhood for you because I know that's been a great thing. Our last guest, rounding this all off, is another gentleman that I've known for several since he's been home pretty much, and he's taken home by storm. When some people leave prison, it takes them a while to get their groove, to figure out what they're going to do, where they're going to head. Didn't happen here. He knew exactly where he was going. He knew exactly how he was going to get there, and he just did it. He just kicked it into high gear. Joshua Garner, he recently was awarded the Rising Leader Award from the Philadelphia Reentry Coalition, and he's the founder and leader of Right to Be Free, an independent news outlet for lifers. Recently joined PRC, the Philadelphia Reentry Coalition, and was accepted to Harvard Law School. So let's talk seriously. Harvard Law School. Damn, you know what? You're right. I should have introduced you first out of all this. And and also, I believe he's working in a law firm currently doing pardon and expungement work. So really proud to have Joshua on. How are you, bud?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. We got to catch up a little bit at the Reentry Coalition's event, which was at Eastern State Penitentiary. So I know you all have been to Eastern State. And I'm just curious, like, do you get the same little kind of chill in your spine when you walk in that building that I do? No, it doesn't bother David at all.
It doesn't. I mean, what's kind of cool, though, is like I had one of my friends actually do a screening of Just Mercy there, and they showed the movie on one of the walls there. And so that was kind of like surreal being able to watch the movie in a prison, you know, because I've been able to do some visits into some federal prisons and to speak about reentry, and they had all said that they've seen the movie there too. So it was kind of cool to be able to actually watch it in a prison setting. So that was really cool there.
Yeah, it's really neat. The event actually was the first time I did this. It was in it was in kind of right off the rotunda, but we had all the chairs lined up in 3 of the aisles that looked straight out at the cells. So like from the podium, Joshua, when he came up for his award, he's actually looking out into 3 different lanes, and all of them are cell blocks. And it's kind of weird it was weird for me. I was wow.
Yeah.
So let's, Madam Secretary, I gotta start with you because I just, I'm so proud of you. I've known you for several years and was so happy when you received the appointment to be Secretary of Pardons. So I'm curious, how's it going?
So it's definitely going well. It's really interesting, I think, for me coming from an advocacy background, moving into government and kind of realizing what we can do and what we can't do, but also really trying to find ways that I can take up this space and really make sure that the people who we're fighting for, that I carry them with me every single day. The people who aren't able to be out here yet with us, who are trying to go through this process, being able to carry them with me every day to work has been really exciting and wonderful. So even with all of the disappointments that come with this work, as I'm sure the rest of you all know, it has been really, really wonderful to be able to be in this position, be able to help folks, be able to provide some hope, be able to go into the prisons where the folks know who I am from my advocacy work, and going in and now being in this position. So it has been really interesting, very eye-opening, sometimes very frustrating, but also at the same time, really, really a wonderful experience because we've been able to help so many people.
Well, we love it. So I'm just curious, like in the standard day from like your 9 to 5, although you probably work a lot longer than that. How many times in a day do you find yourself biting your tongue?
Jeff, you told us to watch our mouths and everything in the beginning, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
No, it really is. I think, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a bit of a fiery personality. So sometimes it does become a little bit difficult for me to have to bite my tongue. But at the same time, we're here to do a job, which is to try to help as many people as possible get that second chance. And it's not about me and what I want to say right now. It's about making sure that we're doing the best job for the Commonwealth and for the people who are ready for that second chance, the people who want to come home from prison, the people who are home already but are trying to get those convictions off of their record. This is about them. And so I'm really, really happy to be able to have the opportunity to help those folks, to be able to, answer the phone when they call and they're like, wait, you answered the phone? Like, well, yeah, that's our job, is to be a resource for people. So, it has been really, really, again, eye-opening. I'm learning a lot. I feel like as an advocate, I'm learning a lot about government and how government actually works, which is nice. But yeah, it's been interesting for sure. But it really is wonderful to hear every day from the family members of folks. We get thank you letters from people, getting to see people out in the community at events who have gone through the process successfully and seeing all of the wonderful things that they've been able to do with their second chance. It's wonderful.
So it's amazing too. I live by, and David will know the saying as well. Glenn Martin used to say, if you're not at the table, you're often being served as the meal. And, men and women that have been justice impacted or really been advocates for it have not been at the table. And having you at the table just to share some of the insights that from people that are around you that that are having some of these challenges, we're really appreciative and we don't take it for granted for 1 second. So thank you for all you do. Is there something high in your priority that you'd like to see happen during your tenure there?
Yeah, a couple different things. Right now, I'm trying to fight for more funding so that we can have a larger staff. We have so many people who are applying for clemency here in the Commonwealth, and we want to be able to serve the people as best as we can. Currently, the process takes years, right? And so we're trying to do everything we can to try to change our processes, change our procedures, and really try to beef up our staff so that we're able to make that process be less cumbersome for folks. We're also bringing everything online. So starting in January, people will apply online. It's 2022. That should have already happened. But hey, it's happening now, which is wonderful. I think one of the biggest complaints that we hear from people is, they send their application into us and then they don't don't hear from us. They don't know what the status is. And we constantly have to answer the phone and just say, hey, your status is it still hasn't been filed, or it has been filed, or we're just waiting. This way people are going to be able to check themselves, right? What their status is. They'll be able to upload their own documents. And it just gives more agency to the people who are applying, which is something that we really, really want to hit home, that, you are able to apply for this. You can go ahead and do all of this yourself. You don't need an attorney. So we're really trying to make that an easier and more understandable and more accessible process. And then, of course, to get as many people before the board successfully and up to the governor as possible. We know we have a mass incarceration crisis here in Pennsylvania. And if you're serving life without parole, largely the only opportunity for you to have relief is to go through the Board of Pardons. And it's frustrating and it's very unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is right now. And so until we see legislative change and policy change, this is the reality for so many people. And so trying to make sure that, again, we're going in and making sure people have hope, but also a dose of reality that, this is not an easy process. It might not happen for you the first time. It might not happen at all. But we really want to make sure that people understand that we are still doing this work and that we do really value everybody who is applying, and making sure that, we help them, support them through the process so that when they do see the board, they have, the best shot possible at success.
Yeah, and it is definitely a family project. It's the kind of thing that involves the whole family, putting a pardon application together and getting it through. And then knowing, too, that you can't sit back and wait. You can't just say, I'm not going to do anything until I get my pardon through. You got to keep living. You got to go out there, find that career, keep pushing forward. And too often, we see people struggle a little bit with that. I did a workshop this morning and I was talking about 2 points I wanted to talk to you about. One was the issue of, the fact that men and women that are Black and brown are so impacted by our criminal justice system. And during COVID, a study recently came out and showed that there was a reduction of that the white population was actually a larger reduction during COVID than Black and Latino. And one of the things that strikes me about that is that the gap that we should be trying to decrease actually got wider because we decreased the population of men and women that are white in our system. And we really was an opportunity during COVID to do more of that. And the second thing I had talked about was in an icebreaker of giving someone a key. And if you had a key, what would you do with it? And my key would unlock a cell to every individual who could be exonerated. Because 2%, by statistics, 2% of our entire prison population in our country are exonerated. That means 20,000 men and women are behind the walls and didn't do anything wrong. So, having some of those things in play and knowing, Pennsylvania's done a great job of helping people that were juvenile lifers coming home and get back on their feet. So opening that door up is so important. And staffing does, I think, hold the issue for you because there's just not enough bodies to help make that happen.
That's right. Staffing, and there's not enough bodies to help, but there's also too many people in prison. We have too many people who are serving life without parole in Pennsylvania. And again, without legislative change and without policy change, this is the only option. So we can staff and we can try to get as many people through the process as possible, but we also need to find other mechanisms too, because the Board of Pardons can't be the only way. We need to find legislative solutions also.
Absolutely. So before we go on, we're going to keep you on because we're going to be hitting you with a bunch of more questions as we go along. But I'm curious, for the men and women coming home that are moms and dads, do you have any advice for them?
Oh my goodness. Live every day. I mean, when you come home, just be present and embrace every single day. But also really focus on self-care. I think a lot of folks, when they come home, and I'm sure Joshua and David and even you, Jeff, can talk more about this, but I hear often so many people feel like they have to go. They have to be there for the people who were there for them when they were inside. They have to be there and they have to go out in the community. They have to do everything. And that is great and that is wonderful. But I want to make sure that we also do really highlight the importance of self-care. Making sure when you come home that you do take boundary, set those boundaries and let people know that I'm, transitioning. This is a different situation for me and I might need some time here and there. I think that that's something that we do hear very often is that when people come home, they feel that burden, they feel that sense of urgency that they have to go do everything right away to help the folks who they left behind, which is a great thing. But also make sure that you're taking the time to pour into yourself as well, because you were just through something extremely traumatic that most people don't even understand. So I really want to make sure that everybody coming home really just focus on self-care.
Great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much. I want to, the next person in the hot seat is we're gonna toss Mr. Garlock in the hot seat now. And David, I'm curious. Why don't you tell everybody? I know you've been a guest on the show before. Why don't you tell everybody your story?
Well, I will share the about 3-minute version of my story.
Good.
So my brother and I, we were both sexually and physically abused for 8 years. It started with me when I was 11 years old. And when I was 19 and a half, my brother was 22 and a half, we made an irrational decision. We thought the only way out of this situation was to take the abuser's life. And so it was June 1999, and we took his life. 4 months later, we were arrested. And so here I am, 20 years old, looking at a murder charge in Alabama, and what's always funny is like Pennsylvania's laws are a whole lot worse than Alabama's, and this is something I tell legislators all the time, and they're like, there's no way. And my offense, if my offense happened in Pennsylvania, I could have easily been given first or second degree murder and automatically given a life without parole sentence. But in Alabama, they just charged my brother and me with murder. So murder covers 10 to 99 to life with the possibility of parole. We had 2 court-appointed lawyers that really didn't want to do anything for us. They didn't want to look into any situations. In Alabama, they have this thing called youthful offender status, which means if you're under 21 when an offense happens, you could apply for this, and the most time that they can give you is 3 years. And so I had to twist both my lawyer's arms, feet, neck, everything to finally have him put me in for this. And so I walked before the judge, and he declined the motion. And he said, rehabilitation is a 70-year-old joke, and just laughed. And I was like, oh, crap, what am I doing here?
Wow.
And so they pled us out. They came to us, said the only deal that they were being offered was a 25-year sentence. And so we accepted it because we were green. We didn't know that we should have pushed back to see if they would have come with another deal, And so we took the deal. I served 13 and a half years in prison. In 2008, Brian Stevenson and Equal Justice Initiative started working with my brother and me. They couldn't really do anything as far as our sentence, but they were able to help both my brother and I with parole. And so both of us made parole. Both of us have received pardons from Alabama. Me last year, which is like winning the lotto right now, because the granting of parole in Alabama right now is right about 10%, and getting a pardon is at like 20%, so it was definitely a blessing to be able to go down there and obtain that. But after I was released, I was able to transfer my parole from Alabama to Pennsylvania, which was so great to get out of there. And once I was able to transfer my parole up here, immediately I was able to vote. And so that was like surreal to me. It's like, wait, I can vote? What are you talking about? They told me in Alabama I can't. And so I was able to enroll into Eastern University, which is where Brian Stevenson got his undergrad. And in 2017, I graduated from college with a Bachelor's of Arts in Urban Studies, focusing on criminal justice and social welfare.
There you go. Now that's a reentry plan.
Now, can you say that 5 times fast, Jeff? That's my question to you.
I cannot do that, but I can say that that's just pretty remarkable. And, congratulations on your way home. And I know, I see pictures of you. We're both active on social media, and I know that you've been blessed with a son. And it's crazy because you get this certain look on you whenever you post with him. That's just like, yeah, life doesn't get any better than this, right? And it doesn't. Congratulations on coming home. And I'm wondering, like, Father's Day, does it have a special place for you?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was actually able to write an op-ed last year around Father's Day and what Father's Day would mean, because those years I was in prison, I dreamt about getting out. I dreamt about a family, and I dreamt about having a child, and so Guy Joshua's almost 19 months old,
Wow.
And it's just so surreal to know that I'm out here. I've been out of prison over 9 years, And he is what a second chance looks like. You know, if I didn't make parole in 2013, I would have been in prison till October 27th, 2024.
Wow.
But because I was given that opportunity, I was given that chance to redeem the rest of my time. You know, that's what I've been able to do. You know, it has been rough. Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of rough times, you know, but it's always about what's in store, you know, and just keep pressing on, you know, because yes, the hard times come. But the thing is like we're made in the valley where that's where we get our strength. That's where we really also see who's there with us, you know, and who's gonna be on this journey with us. Because when you're on the mountaintop, everybody enjoys that mountaintop experience and everything's going good. So everybody's gonna be there to celebrate with you. But when you're in that valley, you know, you see who's truly there for you, who's gonna walk with you, and who's gonna carry you at times when you need to be carried.
Yeah, no, that's so true, so true. And many of us can count on our hands how many people stayed with us on the mountain as we slid down all the way, sometimes pretty much to the bottom. And then there's a great book by David Brooks called The Second Mountain, and it's all about life's journey. And it talks about the premise of the book really is that you climb the first mountain and you get all these life experiences, and you get to the top, and something in life sends you back down. And life really isn't about the first climb. It's what you do on the second one. Like, what are all those lessons that you learned, and you know, enjoying the second climb, that second mountain, and you appreciate it obviously with a new pair of glasses and much differently. David, hang in there. I want to introduce our third guest before we start really giving you guys some hard questions. Joshua Garner. Joshua, how are you? Well, I think you're muted there.
I'm doing pretty good.
There you go. So tell us the Josh Garner story.
Okay. Yeah. 8
Wait, in
years
5 words or less.
ago.
All right, go for it.
About 8 years ago, I was arrested and charged with attempted murder. Here in Philadelphia. My whole thing was I had a family that supported me, and I had an education, and everything, but a lot of trauma happened to me in my teenage years, and it resorted to me taking to the streets, and then ultimately, it led me into being incarcerated. But I was sentenced irrationally, and I knew that there was something wrong with my sentence. So when I first went to prison, I got around the lifers, those serving life without parole, and they supported me. They guided me in the right direction. They got me really focusing on education, and then also my case, they were my inspiration in there. I still had my family supporting me, but it was hard getting these 15-minute phone calls a day, and so they were like literally my best friend, my family. So then after I served about 6 years, while representing myself, I filed a PCRA and challenged my sentence in front of the same judge that sentenced me. And ultimately, my PCRA was granted. I was resentenced and then released a year later. So in total, I spent 7 years in prison. Yeah, and my main focus in prison was education. I was a GED tutor. I also, I advocated for higher education, every aspect, and I facilitated groups and stuff like that. And I got a lot of college credits, and I did a lot of informal education, just reading every book in the library, reading LexisNexis in the law library, just reading random cases just to learn. Then I was given parole the first time. As soon as I came home, it was like, I was so excited to see my kids. I got my son and my daughter. My son was 6 when I went away. And then coming home, he's almost 13. And then my daughter, she was a year old. Then when I came home, she was 9, about to be 9. So it's like, I missed a lot. It was hard. I stayed connected with them through my entire incarceration, but it was definitely a difficult journey. I had my parents there to raise my children and keep that bond and that communication.
Yeah, so I wish that I would have had a picture of the smile on your daughter's face when you got that recent award, because it was like, yeah, this is my dad, man. This is my dad. She was just beaming like ear to ear, and your whole family was happy, and it was so deserving. I'm curious, like, what advice would you have for coming home is hard to reconnect with your family. Dad hasn't been around for a while, mom hasn't been around for a while. You come back into the picture, routines changed, life changes, you start doing things differently at home. How was it like transitioning back to your family?
Well, I had so many plans. Like I drew up a list of things I wanted to do when I got home, and like tried to like prioritize them. But like family was at the top, so I knew it's like I couldn't wait just to be home, just to sit in the couch and you know just be there with my kids and be there with my parents. And but I knew like there were some bigger things that that I wanted to do like for my future, and for my children's future. So I kind of like put that game plan into play. And yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing is, men and women think, at least I personally was thinking like I need to get a job because I need to help support the house and I need to buy this and buy that and trying to make up for lost time. But I had my parents there to be like, all right, slow down. We know you want to do everything, but just slow down. And I think that was like where I really focused on particularly what I wanted to do. And I knew education was at the top of the chart. And then obviously getting a job, but being slow with it, slow pace and find something that I'm good at. And the law was my main focus.
So what kind of work do you do now?
Oh, well, currently I'm certified paralegal in the Igwe law firm.
Love it.
Yes. And then I run my own organization, Right to Be Free, which we do commutation and advocacy for those serving life without parole in Pennsylvania. So we do commutation assistance, legal services. Since now that I'm at the law firm, a lot of the cases that I have through Right to Be Free are referred over to the Igwe firm. So, I mean, I love what I do. I have a passion for it.
As he smiles from ear to ear, right there. Yeah. So tell us about Harvard. Like, how did that all start? Did you always want to go to Harvard?
No, actually, it's a crazy story because I started off when I first came home. I jumped right into Bryan and Stratton College online. At my job, my organization, my family. So I was like, let me do online college and work my way up. But then I started getting a lot of invites to different universities to talk about my story, about my advocacy for lifers, and stuff like that. So one day I was talking to someone and they're like, yo, you should apply for some Ivy League colleges for next year. And I'm like, well, maybe, let's see. So I shot a couple applications out. And then because I go and I speak at these different colleges, I got them the different professors, different presidents of universities write letters of recommendation and support. So when I did apply for Harvard, I told them, I'm like, I just came home from prison September 2021. I'm like, I'm fresh home, but this is my story. This is what I've done, in the past, but this is what I've done during my incarceration. And the letters of support that came in and I was able to submit with my application was pretty much like, the nail in the coffin, and it got me in. And affirmative action. I gotta say affirmative action. Yeah. We need more people that look like me in places like that.
Trust me, we need more people like you in those positions. So congratulations. That's just awesome. Yeah. So we're gonna take a really quick break and we're gonna be right back. And then we're gonna start firing or peppering some questions for you guys. You guys are the experts, and we're gonna be asking you questions about Father's Day and Mom's Day and coming home. So you're listening to Looking Forward, and we are gonna be right back. We are back at Looking Forward. And again, you're listening to Philly Cam Radio, WPPM LP, Philadelphia 106.5 FM. We're on Philly Cam TV, live streaming on Xfinity and Bios TV, Roku, Apple TV, and YouTube. And I'm here with just some great panel. It doesn't get any better than this when you talk about reentry. But I do have some questions for you guys. And we're talking all about, we're talking really about Father's Day. And I'm curious, like, is it possible, or how do you make up for lost time? going away and then coming home from prison, some people are down a year, some down are 5, 10, 15. But when you come home, and I think, Joshua, you had mentioned a few of us kind of taking it slow, but is there a way to make up for lost time when you come home?
I don't believe like you can make up for the time, but more or less like being present. I mean, I thought at first is like I need to buy this and buy that for them and try to spoil them with everything they wanted, and then I realized like they're 9 and 13. It's like they're gonna they're gonna point out every single thing in the store, So they love with me just like being there, even if it's like us on the couch or if we go have a water balloon fight or just being present. It's kind of like a self thing where you're like, I need to make up for this lost time, but they're just concerned about, daddy's home. I just want to be next to him.
Yeah, definitely. Either of you have any thoughts on like not even just a making up on the lost time, but kind of doing the things that are, getting your life back together and reprioritizing things when you come home? David, how'd you do it?
Uh, I mean, it was all about just the plans that I made while I was in prison. When probably the first year or two I was in a behavior modification program, and one of the affirmations they said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So, I mean, my whole time that I was incarcerated, I was preparing for my release. I had a 25-year sentence. So I didn't know if I was going to do 10 years, 15 years, 20, 25. But I told myself, if I have to do all 25 years, I'm going to spend all 25 years of that time preparing myself to get out, And when I'm able to go into federal prisons and stuff, I'm able to talk to these men and individuals about the same thing, letting them know, reentry begins on day one. You need to begin planning for when you get out, because there's times you don't know when you're going to get out. I mean, just look at the juvenile lifers. These are individuals who some had served 20 years, 26 years, 30 years, and they didn't know when they were going to get out, if they were going to get out. But because they were able to prepare, they've come out, and I'm talking about they're kicking butt, taking names, and just like changing the community they're in, So it's really about having that plan, and that focus. And a lot of the lifers that I was around in Alabama, they poured so much into me. And a lot of times these are the men that are running the programs. You have the counselors sitting in the trailer just collecting a paycheck. And these lifers are the people that are changing the lives of these younger individuals coming into the prison. That's why these individuals need to be released to our communities so they can do the same thing in our communities.
Yeah, there's no question. So, Madam Secretary, what's interesting is we talk about people that have gone through, and David, I think David and Joshua would agree that sometimes it's the men that are inside the walls and women inside the walls that have the greatest impact on the people that are walking out. But for those people that are inside today, and thinking about, maybe someday I could be open for a pardon, and maybe I'm in line for that commutation, or maybe there's a chance that. What are the kinds of things that impress you in looking at those applications and trying to see like what did a person do while they were away?
Yeah, and the thing is, I wish I got a vote, because I feel like, I would vote to support so many different people. But I always find it so fascinating that I think, like David mentioned, when you're sentenced to life without parole, for the most part, you probably think that you're going to end up dying in prison. That's the way that our system is here in Pennsylvania. So the fact that we have people applying for clemency who are sentenced to life without parole, they've served 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and they have accomplished more than I have. They've accomplished more than so many people that are out here free in our communities. I got a title, right? I didn't accomplish half of what so many people who are applying for clemency have done under extreme situations, extremely oppressive situations. It's not easy going and getting a degree while you're in prison. A lot of places don't even offer education while you're serving those longer sentences. You know, I was on a Zoom today, and we were talking about a man who is serving life without parole and earned 2 doctorates while he was in prison. 2 doctorates. That is impossible to do. I mean, not impossible, but nearly impossible to do as a free human. So these are the types of things that just blow my mind. When you're reading an application, you see all these certificates, right? You see all of these letters of support from people in the community that are saying, I want this person to be my neighbor. And that is something that I think is really important, right? You have correction staff who is saying, I want this person home so they can live in my community. I want them home because they are keeping our prisons safe and mentoring the young folks who are coming in. And there's no reason for them to be there. It's no longer serving any purpose other than vengeance. It's wasting our tax dollars. All of these different things that we need to start looking at when we're talking about like sending somebody to prison. People throw around years. They'll be like, oh, 10 years, 20 years, right? How long did each of those years feel, Joshua and David, right? Like we throw sentences around like it's nothing, but each of those days is a day away from your family, your loved one, your community, right? And you see so many people when you go into prisons and see these lifers, right, who are keeping things together, who are the ones that when other folks come home, they say, like David said, they poured so much into me that I am a better person now because of this lifer. So why aren't we doing more to let the lifers come home and be those forces in the community that can stop people from doing things that might cause harm? Because they've been through that. They've caused harm. They've been punished for that harm. And they know all those life lessons. So, you know, we really need to start looking at how impressive people are in prison. I feel like more people who are in elected positions, in appointed positions, in positions of power need to go inside of a prison. Because if you go inside of a prison, you get to meet people like David. You get to meet people like Joshua. You get to meet people like you, Jeff, right? You walk in, and I've never felt unsafe when I go inside of a prison. I sit inside of rooms with lifers and the doors shut behind me, and it's just me. And I've never felt more cared for or more safe because all they want to do is make everything better. Our society, our community, their prisons, their families. And so what impresses me is the fact that people are able to live every day with some sort of hope, right? Even if there's no guarantee of release, but they've been able to accomplish things. They've been able to just even simply exist in prison. I couldn't do it. Right.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. It's really crazy too, because one of the challenges that we often see inside of our prison walls is the lack of resources, educational tools, and digital literacy, and things that can really help prepare people for when they come home. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't see someone run into someone who's been a juvenile lifer that's come home and doing some amazing things. And that is the thing that impresses me, like how people really can change. I was up at SCI Chester last week and spoke to the reentry pod unit there, a whole bunch of men that were getting ready to come home. And we really had this heart to heart, like, what is it like when you come home? What can you expect? What should you be your target? Like, what are the best things the best ways to kind of get started? And, I always tell them one step at a time, just come home, smell the roses, do things that you haven't done in a while, go appreciate your family, take your kids out. And I'll tell a story later on about the one thing that I remember most when I came home. But, those little things. And Joshua, the same thing, like you walked out of prison probably with a stack of certifications and things like you couldn't learn enough. And you mentioned reading books and just getting smarter inside. That's more of the norm than the exception. Men and women inside of the walls, they want to get better. They want to figure out what they're going to do next. And they don't want to be stuck in that revolving prison door. But until we start providing them with resources and support inside, and that's why the center of my world is education, workforce development, and justice. But the one thing that sticks out in my head every day when I use it on a slide deck all the time is, at Eastern State, they have a big graphic. It says we are the most incarcerated country in the world. And it's like no country is even close to us. Yeah. But I put in my most recent graphic a line right below it for Pennsylvania. And in per capita, the United States is number one, but Pennsylvania is just about number two when it comes to the number of people we have incarcerated in our state. And we got to do a better job in Pennsylvania of helping, fix that problem and getting people out. And I'm glad that Celeste, you're sitting there, because that's something that I think the more we can have an efficient system and get more people on the pardon board, and really even regional pardon bureaus, where we have regional agencies that can start, kicking up the number of commutations and pardons that we see, and really looking at them carefully and getting more support that way, would be just incredible.
I wanted to say,
yeah, Josh.
with like those serving life without parole, like I try not to talk too much about myself, but like I use myself and my story, my transition into society, and then my achievements that I've been out here as me being an example of what the capabilities of those serving life without parole. We hear a lot of people talking about the lifers are in there mentoring young people and helping them get their life on track. I always say that I'm an example of the mentorship that these men and these women have to offer. So if I'm able to be, I was some punk 22-year-old kid, all mixed up in the streets, and then go in there and get around the lifers and then to mentor me and to get me, on the right track, and then to come home and then all the achievements that I'm making, this is an example of their capabilities.
That's right. And honestly, I mean, and first of all, hi, guy Joshua. I have been taught so much by people who are serving life without parole. I learned so much about legislation by going in and meeting with the Grey Panthers, right? And now we've got Kev Butler, who was commuted. Right now he's home, and I get to see him outside, and he's still teaching me things. Some of my best friends are people who are formerly serving life without parole or are currently serving life without parole. And it really is something about the wisdom, right, that they can impart to people, whether you're incarcerated or not. It's just really something that's fantastic.
Yeah. Good.
One thing that I've seen as far as doing these legislative visits around SB 135 and SB 835. SB 135 is a lifer bill. SB 835 is a geriatric medical parole bill. Some of these legislators are like, oh, let's go ahead and just do some type of program so we can see if we release some of these lifers, how they're going to do when they get out. We're like, excuse me. They just did that with about 280 some juvenile lifers, and only 6 have been rearrested, 2 gone back to prison. I think that is a pretty good example of what this population is going to do when they get released.
That's right.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the days of studies and surveys are gone for me. Like I can't, if I see another survey that comes through and says, tell me what's the impact of homelessness on incarceration? I'm like, seriously? Like we've been doing enough surveys. I think we really need to start doing some getting down, getting dirty, going into the neighborhoods that really need the support, and just start programming, really putting funding into education and workforce development. And it's really about helping people understand what their talent is and where they are. And, I'm proud of Joshua going to law school, and you'll be you'll be incredible at Harvard. But the legal background that you have is so, and the one thing that is about is a skill set you'll never lose. Like I was a trial lawyer for 20 years in Philadelphia, and I never lost that skill set, and it's helped me advance. And those are the kind of things that, knowledge is power. And the more that you can read and educate yourself, wow, how impactful that is. Moms and dads come home all the time, and they often struggle. They struggle with kids and with children coming home. They struggle with family and reconnecting with family. There's a lot of burnt bridges. When you go to prison, there's a lot of family that, are hurt. And I think you guys would all agree that, when you go to prison, that your family goes to, they're in prison, they're incarcerated in their own prisons. And it's hard. There's a lot of mixed feelings when you come home about how you adjust and how you get back on. And in a large way, it never is 100% the same. And yet there's something that I think a family sees when they go through this journey together, and when they stay together, that they have this respect for each other, that, they all work together in doing it. And Joshua, both you and David are living proof of like how that all plays out, and that life goes on. Right. And, we learn, we get smarter from our experiences and things that we learn. And I'm curious if you had relationships if you had advice for moms or dads coming home. What is it that we really want them to know? What is the most important things about coming home and getting back with your family? Anybody want to jump in?
I mean, I'd say one of the main things is the individual that's coming home. Not Celeste said it great earlier as far as practicing the self care, but I'd also recommend as for seeing a counselor. Because the thing with that is so many people have adverse childhood experiences when they were kids. Then when they're arrested, being arrested is traumatic. Going to the county jail is traumatic. Going to prison is traumatic. What you see in prison is traumatic. Being away from your family is traumatic, So you have to get out and begin to work on that trauma, because you're not going to be the best mom. You're not going to be the best dad. You're not going to be the best family member if you don't deal with that trauma. Because that trauma is going to come up in different things. There's going to be things that trigger you, and you're going to just revert to that trauma and that hurt. And that's, at times you're going to hurt people you don't want to hurt because you were triggered, So I would definitely, we have to make counseling where it's not this bad thing, it has to be this thing where, okay, I need to get better and this is how I do it, So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Joshua, got one?
I would say, no, that was David had an excellent answer. But I would say more or less like to prioritize your time management. Because I think that was one of my biggest issues, because I jumped right into like volunteering for different organizations and running this way and that way, and I needed to prioritize and like baby steps, a lot of things, but then to formulate like I need to be home at this time so then I can spend some time with my children, so I can spend some time with my family, and then not let, work and, my organization, everything else consume all of my time when my main support system is my family, so that is my foundation. And, I can't, I keep them focused number one. And, yeah, so I mean, time management, that was definitely difficult, especially when you really start working, and then because I got work, I got school, I got the organization, I got everything going on in life. But so properly prioritize your time, and make sure that your family is at the top of that.
Very cool. Celeste, you got some advice for our moms and dads coming home?
Yeah, I think both of them said it so well. Really the biggest thing that we hear from people is that, right, that they feel obligated, right, to take every minute that they are home and free to help fight for others, right, who have not come home yet. And, I've never been incarcerated, but I have burnt out before as an advocate, because sometimes I feel as though if I'm taking the time to relax, how am I able to take time to relax while there are so many of my comrades who are still fighting for freedom, right? However, those comrades who are still fighting for freedom want me to relax, right? I can't be the best advocate for them if I don't have a chance to actually pour back into myself. And so that's one of the best things that I ever heard, was, advice from one of my friends who's serving life without parole, is just making sure that as much as I'm dedicated to these people, they're dedicated to me too, right? They want me to be healthy. And so making sure that you do take that time, and realize that it's not easy. It's not easy being somebody who's never been incarcerated. It's not easy living an adult life, right? So just understand that there are going to be some things you might struggle with, but always find people who are going to be there to help support you.
Yeah, those are all awesome. So here's mine. Mine is that work on forgiving yourself. We look for forgiveness from our family and our friends, and oftentimes it's ourselves that we are the toughest on. I always say that the sentence that I gave myself, it pales in comparison to what the judge gave me. I mean, I remember every day everything that got me into trouble, and forgiving myself was the very first thing that I needed to do, was really understand that it was okay. It's okay we're all human. We all make choices that aren't so perfect. Einstein's got a great line: if you make 10 bad choices a day, you're just not trying hard enough. because that's kind of how we learn, right? We do things and we don't do them so well, and we learn from them, and that's how we move on. So definitely, really very self-reflective today of everything, and so much so that I'll get on every show, I'll get on every meeting, and really sit down and what went well, what didn't go so well, but understand that we're all not perfect, and that's totally okay. And it's okay when you come home to know that you're not going to be the perfect dad. No one is, and not be a perfect mom, but we'll get as close as we possibly can, right? And do everything for our kids. So we're going to go round robin and give one last wish. Before I do, I want to just tell a quick story because it's my Father's Day story, and I've told it before on air, but I generally try and tell it around this time every year. But 3 years ago, I was it was the first time I was off supervised release, and my daughter had me get in the car and said it was on Father's Day. I was out without a bracelet, and my daughter said, "Come on, I'm taking you for a Father's Day gift." And I was like, "Uh-oh, is this a punishment?" And she said, "No, get in the car." So we got in the car and we went up to her high school. And then she said, "Get out of the car." And I was like, "You seriously, you're going to punish me like this?" She says, "No, just get out of the car." And I got out of the car, and she went to the back of the car and opened the trunk, and she took out her cap and gown and the awards that she got from her high school graduation. And we went out to the 50-yard line, and we all sat there, and we spent the afternoon taking a lot of pictures and really talking about the journey that I was on and also the journey that she was on, so that I could understand it a little better. And I have to say, I know that not being at her graduation because I was away, not being at her graduation was painful, and it would have been an unbelievable experience. But that day for me was just priceless. So when we think about not making up for lost time, I think there are ways that we can, in our own small way, that make it special, and that we can share those kind of moments. So one wish. So we got a few minutes left, but I want to go around the horn, and one wish for Father's or Mother's Day for people coming home or going through our justice system. Joshua, kick us off.
Yeah, I wish that those that are fighting, never lose hope. You have that support out here. You have those advocating for you. So don't lose hope. We're out here. We're fighting, and we're doing this together.
I love it. Good stuff. Good stuff. And congratulations and good luck at Harvard. I just definitely going to go up there at some point to I want to see you at Harvard. I want to go up. David, you want to give it to us? Give us a wish for our for fathers and mothers out there. There you go. That's a good wish. That's all right.
He's got a lot to say.
He does. It's all good. It's all good. No, that's part of being a dad, right? Celeste, give us a wish. We'll come back to Dave if we can, but give us a wish for moms and dads that are coming home.
Well, I'm going to be a little more practical with my wish.
Okay.
I wish that the people who are in power in our Commonwealth would understand that we need a reallocation of our resources in order to better support our moms and dads who are coming home from prison or from jail, or people who are impacted at all, whether they are at the front end in it with being incarcerated or coming home. I wish that our leaders would do a better job at allocating our resources to be better serving of our people in our Commonwealth and our community members.
Yeah, really, really well said. It's prison is a journey for everybody, but I think that there are legislative tools that are available to us now, that if we all sat down and kind of try to put the pieces together, that we'd be able to figure at least parts of it out. And I appreciate you, Madam Secretary, for being with us today, and recognizing it is often frustrating, in governmental positions, especially in some states. Not that I'm necessarily calling Pennsylvania out, but I am calling them out, and I'm sure it's like this in other states as well, where it becomes a political battle as opposed to a human battle. And, we need to bring the humanity back into our system and recognize that men and women that are inside and outside are all just people. And if we could start thinking them people first, I think we'd be a lot better off that way. So thank you so much for being with us. And Joshua, I'm so proud of you. You're just kicking it up and doing everything just right. And you are the model that people should look at when you come home. Know that there are resources, there are tools out there, but most importantly is there's a life out there for you. And we just have to dig down and find out what you're passionate about, and then just go for it. There's not a day that I live today that I don't think about how grateful I am every morning when my feet just can't wait to hit the floor and get running. So I love it. But I want to thank everybody. Thank you all for being on today. You're listening to and watching Looking Forward show. We're going to be back after a summer break, but we hope you'll join us. It's Philly Cam Radio, PPM LP Philadelphia 106.5, and Philly Cam TV. And this is Jeff Abramowitz, and we're going to see you after the summer break. So everybody take care, and you guys are great. So have a great night, everybody. Take care.